What's up, everybody? John Eric Pauli here with my MMA news, and today's guest, very familiar to the MMA scene in my area of northeastern Pennsylvania. Now he's becoming very familiar around the world with his sports betting. Pleased today to be joined by a former promoter, now turned analyst, founder of the MMA Shark, Paul, the MMA Shark. Paul, how are you doing, man?
Good, John. What's going on, buddy? How you been? Nice catching up with you today.
Yeah, man, it's great seeing you. I know before we came on air, we were talking a lot about the old PA cage fighting days and whatnot. And we're going to talk about all of that and a lot of these great events coming up that you're going to be helping people with. But before we even starting that, I just want to remind all of the viewers out there that if you head over to MMAnews.com right now, click on the MMA Shark banner. You will get half off of a monthly subscription. That offer good for a limited time. So make sure you guys head on over and do all of that. And with all of that being said now, let's get into the good stuff here. And Paul, we mentioned, right, the old PA cage fighting days. That was such a major part of how you kind of got started. And Jimmy Hedis as well, former UFC fighter, big in this northeastern Pennsylvania area. Just talk a little bit about him in those days and kind of how all that got you to where now you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Growing up with Jimmy Hedis, like playing mini football with Jimmy Hedis, and then seeing that he's going to the UFC and going to watch his local shows even before he fought for PA Cage Fight, and just getting into this sport that I'm like, I love this sport. Like, I didn't know, like, in the peak of GSP, I was just getting into the sport. So, you know, I'm probably about 15 years into it. I've been doing the handicapping now for 7 years. Promoting fights was awesome. When COVID hit, it was time for it to go. But I still follow up with a ton of the fighters that fought for us that are now in the UFC. Phil Rowe, Chris Curtis, Jordan Espinosa, Bill Algeo. I mean, there's so many fighters that, you know, I watched come from the regional amateur scene and made it to the UFC, which is just absolutely awesome. You know, to see Chris Curtis co-main event UFC London, that's just like a dream come true. Like, he fought in Kingston for us and won our co-main event. So I love being a part of the journey and along the way with a lot of these fighters. But my main aspect of MMA right now is strictly handicapping, and I have gone global. Yeah, we have our Pennsylvania roots that we're both tied to right now. But when someone hits plays at the percentage I've been hitting, you know, it goes and goes and goes. I have a 92% subscription retention right now. So I can't say business has been bad, John.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job with everything there. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about how you got into sports handicapping too. Like, what made you wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to start being a sports handicapper?
Well, there's a lot of groups online on Facebook that I was in, because I used to bet. I used to like to bet, like nothing crazy, but some of the groups that you're in, like, I would just see guys posting their plays and they're like awful. Like, you know, there's a couple guys posting their plays for like a UFC, and I see they're like 2-12 and 2-14, and people are like, wow, you had a good pick on the one you won. So one night I literally just decided to post my card, and I think I went 15-0 or something silly like that. And I had a lot of people messaging me, hey, you're going to post the next card? Could you post more? So I just progressively kept doing it. Like, you know, it was like a trial run. And it got huge. I mean, before I knew it, I had 300 people every Saturday night ready to look at my picks and see what I've got. And, you know, I got close with a lot of people. And, we turned it into MMA Corporation. It was the time to do it. It was the right move to do. And I have no regrets.
I was going to say too, right? So since you've been doing this, right, you mentioned about, I think you said it was a 92% subscription rate, was it? And you were saying, right?
92% of the people that subscribed with me from day one are still with me. So I've lost roughly 8% of my subscribers. The industry standard would probably be 50%. And I'm not going to sit here and say I don't lose. UFC 278, I got crushed. Anytime a bad beat happens, it's usually followed with a stream of bad luck. And when Mike Bell I had a huge play on the Fletcher-Lusa fight not to go the distance. AJ Fletcher had Lusa out cold on his feet early in the second round. Beltran allowed that fight to continue, and it went the distance. So the next fight, literally the next fight, which my play was already out, I had Sean Woodson to win. Woodson got clipped in the first round. He lost a 10-8 round and ended up being a draw. So I didn't lose that fight. But the string of bad luck on that night just completely carried on ever since Beltran didn't stop that fight. Alexander Romanov, I had him to win by any finish over Tabura. He mauled him in the first round. It literally may have been a 10-7 round, as rare as that is. And then just was out of gas. I had Aldo. Aldo was a big play on that card. Arguably, he won the first round and a half, and then just stopped fighting. He was stuffing takedowns. And the icing on the cake was I had 4 parlays where the last leg was Usman, and we saw what happened with 47 seconds left in that fight. So it's not always rainbows and butterflies, but it's a progressive thing. It's what's my year to date? What's my month to date? And anyone that's been with me since the beginning of the year, they're up over 300 units this year. So, if someone bets $50 a fight, they're up $15,000 just from following the MMA Shark this year. So at 109 a month, I think it's a pretty damn good value because I'm putting professional plays behind everything. I don't just put out something to put it out. They're all professionally calculated plays, and for the most part, every night's a winning night. There's bad cards, absolutely.
Yeah, well, if you keep winning too, that's a great reason why to head on over to mymmanews.com right now. Click on the MMA Shark banner and get half off of that monthly subscription.
I have never ran that promotion in my life anywhere. Literally, the only place to get a subscription to the MMA Shark for half off 1 month is at the My MMA News. So, people should really jump to that. For $50 a month, for $50 for the first month, you're getting 10. Just in September, you're getting 10 cards. We have the big UFC Paris Saturday, and then we've got Diaz versus Kazmat next week. And then Song Yadong's headlining a UFC fight night this month. We've got a big Bellator. Every Tuesday night, I do Dana White Contender Series. I have 2 LFAs, and I even include boxing in the package. So the amount of value compared to the amount of work I put in this, there's some handicappers that charge $50 a month, but they're not getting what you get with the MMA Shark. We're a legitimate brand, and we get it right.
So let's talk. Got a lot to dissect here. You were mentioning all the fights that you handicap and have parlays and everything for. I do want to start. I remember you said every Tuesday you're doing Dana White's Contender Series. You had mentioned there are rough nights in the office. Just curious, was it 7 straight underdogs on the Contender Series 1? I've been covering it for my MMA News, and it seems like every time they come out, the underdog seems to have been winning recently. Just how's things been going over there with that? Because obviously that's very tricky to pick 7 straight underdogs like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I had 5 of them. So the crazy thing is, on Tuesday night, my play of the night, and when I release a play called an axe play, that's my max bet. And fight 3 of Dana White Contender Series last week, I was on Rebecca as an axe play. So we're right where we're at with the 7 underdogs in a row, and he was a minus 200 favorite. So I'm going, oh my God. So I need to turn the tide right now. And after him, I have the 2 underdogs. So he eats a head kick from hell about 15 seconds into the fight. And when I said he ate it, he ate it. He took it like it was nothing, took his opponent down, and just beat the shit out of him. He submitted him with a rear naked choke with 0 hooks in. He's that strong. So we turned that, 70% underdog into a win. But the next fight, I had DeMoss to win at plus 295, and he grabbed his opponent in a standing guillotine and just didn't let go until he tapped. So I'm not a capper that loves chalk. It's very rare for me to put out anything over minus 250. And it's very common for me to put out props that are plus 600, plus 800, plus 1,000, and we hit them. So in my mind, lines are nearly irrelevant when it comes to MMA. You really can't cap it. And Dana White even said about Dana White Contender Series, he goes, you can't cap this. He goes, these are a parlay bettor's dream. Week 4, if you would have parlayed all 5 underdogs and put $100 on it, you made like $30,000. Now, I didn't do that. I think I split that night, but it's one of the most difficult things to cap. I was saying to some of my subscribers that UFC Paris is almost going to be easy after hitting Dana White's Contender Series. And it's awesome, but those kids are going out there, they're fighting for their life if you think about it on Contender Series. one shot can change everything is their motto, and it's no joke. I mean, one shot, you're either back on the regional scene or you're in the UFC. You know, he's handed out contracts like candy to these guys winning fights. And quite frankly, some of them don't deserve them. And Daniel Cormier can agree with that. Michael Bisping can agree with that. But, you know, when you're on that show, it's kill or be killed.
It really is too, and it's something. And it seems like you usually get a finish on that show. Dana White usually always gives anyone that gets a finish on that show a contract. But you did mention
one of my closest fighters to me is Chris Curtis. He had a huge TKO win 3 years ago on Contender Series and didn't get signed. And then I look at someone like Maria Silva who just lost, and the only reason she lost the fight is because she got laid on. Her opponent tore her ACL in the fight and gets signed to the UFC. So over the years, Dana White has really made it a vision of win on Contender Series, you're in the UFC. So those fights are pretty close to uncappable, but we're 6 weeks in right now, and we're 4-2 on them. So I couldn't be happier with those results.
All right, let's talk UFC Paris now. You were saying before how it's going to be a lot easier to handicap those than it would be to do the Contender Series. Obviously, that fight night just a couple days away here. 2 days away, actually. We're doing this on a Thursday here. So
weigh-ins tomorrow night. There's several fighters that are going to be very close to making weight. I don't know if it's due to the being in Paris or what, but you guys might be breaking a lot of news tomorrow based on the information I keep getting. So we'll see. There's 12 fights on the card. I love the card. I love the co-main event, Whitaker and Vettori. That is a fight. And both can be, you know, somewhat boring fighters, but I know exactly where I'm headed in that fight, and I love it. Alexei DeChirico is on the main card. He's definitely been a stud lately. So we'll see. He's got a tough fight. Charles Jourdain versus Nathaniel Wood. It's a solid card. And it's Saturday at noon. Like, let's pick the biggest college football day of the year and go head to head with it. So I lost a couple subscribers to football. You know, they said I focus on football in the fall and I'll be back in January. So unfortunately for those that made that choice, most people don't make money when betting football. And my most profitable months have been September through December every year of doing this. So I'm coming in hot. Boxing went 100% last month, which doesn't happen often. We had one draw to end Saturday night, but since I released boxing, I think it was 5-0-1 draw, so it's pretty solid. And there's always boxing on. So, you know, a subscription to the MMA Shark, you're getting over 100 plays a month. So it's a lot of work. It's tedious. I've only gotten trolled by like 2 people in the long time of doing this. So my troll retention is quite low.
Hey, that's a good thing to have there when the trolls are down to a minimum there. One last thing I want to ask you about with all of this.
4.8 out of 5 rating on Facebook. So no one's not eating when they're with the MMA Shark. We have bad nights. We don't have bad years.
That is true. And I want to ask you one more thing before we kind of wrap things up here with this whole entire thing. One of the things that you said that you do, I saw in a previous interview with my colleague James Lynch, and I found it very interesting. I want you to talk about whenever you're doing all of this, you really look at these like very fine details. You pay attention to who's judging a fight, what the judge's tendencies are. You look at different things like weigh-ins. What are a lot of these like very small details that maybe you look at that maybe other people aren't looking at, which gives the MMA Shark a huge benefit maybe over other outlets?
I mean, a magician never tells his tricks. But yeah,
that is true.
I don't just handicap the fighters. I handicap the judges. I handicap the referees. I handicap the altitude. I handicap the venue. I look at travel time. I look at when they arrived. I look at water weight on the scale. You know, I look at how their weight cut went. There's so much more to handicapping a fight, especially when you're hitting dogs. Like, you know, if I'm putting out my name on a plus 300, why am I doing that? I have to have a pretty damn good reason, because, you know, the intended win rate on someone who's minus 400, you got to think it's somewhere near 90%. A lot of times it's 50% to me. So I'm going with the dog in that situation. And we may not win the fight, but we may have our moments in the fight where it was close enough that, you know, if it was a half unit risk on a plus 300 and they lose by split decision, in my mind, I won that fight. Because why lay minus 400 on a split decision when, you know, our guy's in it the whole time and we might get the nod, you know? So I look at everything. One thing I did not cap was Leon Edwards knocking Kamaru Usman out cold 24 and a half minutes into the fight on August 20th. And again, that's why I say I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a magician and I never lose. I lose. I have losing nights. UFC August wasn't a winning month. I was +4 UFC units going into that card and we got smoked. So it's going to happen from time to time. But what we do is we bounce back and we recover, and we've already started doing that. And I expect September to go somewhere from 40 to 60 units based on what I'm seeing. Really some favorable edges, and I'll never forget when Glover Teixeira fought for the belt, and I love that fight. He was +300, and I loved Glover Teixeira in that fight to win the title off Jan Blachowicz for like 4 months. So there's a couple of those fights coming up where I loved that play, and I zero in on them, and they just work. So favorable edge, big fights coming up. I'm on it. I'm all over it. I'm ready to do it. People can head to mymmanews.com, click that top banner, take advantage of that deal because it's not going to be there much longer. It's going to probably be there for another week or so. And I just got a nasty Pennsylvania windstorm. Everything's blowing out here. So I feel like I'm, not in PA right now. It came out of nowhere. It feels like fall. It's September. So September, October, November, December, my best months. I'm just excited for what's to come. I'm happy to be partnered up with My MMA News to spread the news. I now have subscribers in 14 different countries. So getting bigger, man.
Yeah, no, you keep doing this good work. People keep winning money. It's going to keep happening. Last thing now before you head out, I know we obviously plugged the website. We plugged the promo code at mymmanews.com. Tell everybody else for any other info, whether that be social media, websites, all that type of stuff that they got to find.
So here's another reason why I'm different as a handicapper. This is me. There's not some robot sending plays out. When you sign up with me, you're personally in with me. I send a text out. The text comes directly to your phone, not as a group message, not as a group chat, right to you. When you get that text with the play, I have a database and a system that if you reply to it, if you have a question, it's coming right to my phone. So you're literally communicating with me during the card if you need me. A lot of times I'll put out, I do a finishers parlay where I take 2 fights that I believe are not going to go to the distance and I parlay them together. Some states that don't have DraftKings or FanDuel or BetMGM, their only option is like 2.5 rounds, 1.5 rounds. And, a lot of times they message me and I give my advice on it. So you're dealing with the president, the CEO of the company during the card. I'm with you guys during the card. You don't need to log in and see if the plays are there or anything yet. The second I broadcast the play, within 3 seconds, it's delivered to your phone. So it's very user-friendly. It's a very user-friendly. And I invested a lot of money into having the right system. Our merchandise launch has gone great. We've sold a couple hundred items already, hats, shirts, hoodies, kid shirts, tank tops. So that's something that my wife and oldest son do the shipping on. So, we're a family-owned business, but it's not like I need to go to Vegas and be called some kind of old-school Vegas gangster name as a handicapper. This is me. This is what I do, and we get it right. So, like I say, John, sharks only swim forward. So, and as always, I want to shout out my MMA Shark OGs that made this possible. There's a select group of us that have all been together since day one, and we're a second family. And all signs pointing forward. I'm hoping for a huge September. Maybe we can chat in October and do a little recap if you and Eric are on board with that, and we'll see what's to come in October and November.
All right, Paul, thanks again so much for all the time, man. I'm sure we'll be talking some more here in the future. Just a reminder again for everybody out there, go to mymmanews.com, look for the MMA Shark banner, and that will lead you to what you got to do to get the half-off subscription for the month. So make sure you guys check that out if you want to win some cash money here. So again, thanks to everybody who watched today's interview. If you liked it, please go to the bottom, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and mymmanews.com, not only offering these great offers for sports betting, but we have a lot of great MMA content that comes out all 7 days of the week, so make sure you guys are checking that out as well. We'll see you later, everybody.